My wife betrayed me with my best friend and tried to steal my property. So I destroyed them quietly. My name is James. It started with little things, the late nights at work. The phone always turned face down. The sudden change in how my wife, Emily, spoke to me, softer but distant, like she was trying to keep me calm while hiding a storm behind her eyes. I thought maybe it was stress. Maybe we were just going through a rough patch. But the truth was far darker than anything I could have imagined. I had known my best friend, Mark, since college. We had been through everything together, job changes, breakups, even standing beside each other at each other's weddings. He was like a brother to me, the kind of person you trust with your life. So when I started noticing how often Emily mentioned him, how her smile changed when she talked about him, I still didn't think much of it. I trusted them both. And that trust was my biggest mistake. One night, I came home early from a business trip. My phone had died, so I couldn't call ahead. The house was dark except for the faint light coming from the living room. I walked in and there they were, sitting close on the couch, their hands intertwined, whispering. And when they saw me, their faces went pale. Mark stammered something about dropping by to check on Emily. But her eyes told the truth, and it hit me like a punch to the gut. I didn't yell, I didn't throw anything. I just walked upstairs, closed the bedroom door, and sat there in silence, my hands shaking, my chest tight, because I knew this wasn't just about love or lust. It was about betrayal, about people I loved conspiring behind my back. And I had no idea just how deep it went until I found the documents hidden in Emily's desk drawer and signed property transfer papers, my house, my land, everything I had worked for, and both of their names were in the plan. That night, something in me broke, but something else woke up too. The part of me that doesn't forgive, the part that keeps quiet, plays dumb, and waits for the perfect moment to strike. I started smiling at them again, playing the loyal husband and trusting friend. Because if they wanted to destroy my life, they were going to learn what it felt like when the person they underestimated decided to destroy theirs instead. Over the next few weeks, I became an actor in my own life, smiling at Emily over breakfast, laughing at Mark's stupid jokes, pretending I didn't notice the way they stole glances when they thought I wasn't looking. I kept my voice calm, my face relaxed, and my questions casual, because I needed them to believe I was still blind. The more comfortable they felt, the more reckless they would become, and reckless people make mistakes. I started digging quietly, late at night after Emily was asleep. I copied every file from her laptop to a hidden drive, scrolled through months of messages between her and Mark, reading the way they spoke about me like I was some idiot they could manipulate, the way they planned weekend business trips for me so they could spend time together, the way they discussed selling my property the second my name was off the deed. Every word was a knife, but I forced myself to read until the end, because anger was fuel, and I was going to burn them with it. Mark owned a small construction company, barely keeping afloat, and I learned through his emails that he had been funneling money from a recent project into a private account under Emily's name. If the client found out, he'd be ruined. And if Emily's name was attached, she'd be facing charges too. I didn't even have to fabricate anything. The evidence was already there. All I had to do was package it neatly and decide when to drop the bomb. But I wasn't ready yet. Not until I made sure the hit would be permanent. One Saturday, Emily told me she was going to her sister's for the weekend. She even kissed my cheek before leaving. But 30 minutes later, I followed her, staying just far enough behind. She didn't go to her sister's. She went straight to Mark's place. I parked down the street, my heart pounding, watching her walk into his house without even knocking, like she belonged there. I stayed for hours, watching the lights flicker in different rooms, picturing every disgusting detail, and instead of breaking me, it sharpened my focus, because now I knew exactly where they thought they were safest. When she finally came home Sunday night, smelling faintly of Mark's cologne, I sat at the table with a folder in front of me. Inside were copies of every incriminating document, every photo I'd taken, every message I'd saved. But I didn't show her yet. I just looked at her and smiled, because the real revenge wasn't going to be a confrontation. It was going to be watching her and Mark's entire lives collapse around them, slowly, painfully, until there was nothing left for them to hold on to. The next phase was patience, the kind that feels like torture. Every day I had to watch them live their little fantasy. Thinking they were outsmarting me, I'd kiss Emily goodbye in the morning. Knowing she was going to see Mark, I'd grab beers with Mark at night, listening to him complain about how stressful his life was, biting my tongue while my mind was screaming at him. It wasn't about catching them anymore. It was about letting them build their own gallows. I started planting seeds, subtle ones, a casual mention to Emily about how I might sell the property one day, just to see her eyes light up. then dim when I added that I hadn't decided who I'd sell it to. A quiet suggestion to Mark that maybe he should look into new business partners because some people weren't trustworthy. I could see the doubt start to creep in, the way they both began asking each other strange questions. Wondering if I suspected anything, I gave them just enough rope to make them nervous, but not enough to run. One night, while Emily was in the shower, her phone lit up on the nightstand, a text from Mark saying, "We need to move faster. Before he changes his mind." My blood boiled. But I took a photo of it and put the phone back. The next day, I forwarded a handful of their emails to an anonymous account I'd set up, one that I knew the construction project's client would be very interested in. I didn't hit send yet, but the trigger was ready. Just one click and Mark's career would be nothing but ashes. Meanwhile, I began quietly moving my assets, transferring savings into an account Emily didn't know about, updating my will and power of attorney, even having a private meeting with my lawyer to make sure my property could never be taken without my consent. I signed documents with a steady hand, imagining the moment Emily would realize everything she schemed for had slipped through her fingers, and that she'd have to face the wreckage with nothing left to bargain with. Then came the first crack, a phone call late at night. I picked up and it was Mark's foreman, drunk and rambling, telling me how Mark had been too busy with his girlfriend to handle the project, and how some of the workers were threatening to walk out. I didn't say much, just thanked him for the call, but inside I was smiling, because the collapse was already starting, and neither of them had the slightest clue that I was the one holding the wrecking ball. By the next week, the tension between Emily and Mark was starting to show. I could hear it in her voice when she came home late, slamming her purse on the counter, muttering about how Mark wasn't thinking things through. And I caught him avoiding my calls, like a kid hiding from the principal. They didn't know that every argument they had was music to my ears, proof that my plan was working exactly the way I wanted. I chose a Thursday morning for the kill shot. While Emily was still asleep, I quietly emailed the construction project's client every document, every bank transfer, every damning piece of evidence linking Mark and Emily to stolen funds. I didn't need to attach my name. The truth was enough to light the fire. Then I forwarded those same files to the local news tip line, knowing it wouldn't take long before the story went public. And by the time the sun was up, the match had been struck. At noon, Mark called me, his voice shaking, telling me the client had pulled the contract, his accounts were frozen, and the police wanted to ask him a few questions. I just told him I hoped everything worked out, then hung up before he could answer. 10 minutes later, Emily called from work, her tone frantic, demanding to know if I'd heard anything about Mark's situation. I told her no, then added, "Funny how secrets have a way of getting out," and let the silence hang until she mumbled something and hung up. When I got home that night, Emily was sitting at the kitchen table, eyes red, a half-empty glass of wine in front of her. She started crying, telling me she didn't know how it all went so wrong, how she never meant to hurt me. And for a moment I almost laughed, because even now she was still lying. I slid the folder across the table, the same one I'd prepared weeks ago, and told her I'd known everything from the start. Her face drained of color as she flipped through the pages, the reality hitting her all at once. I told her the marriage was over, the house was mine, and she could take whatever she could carry by tomorrow. She tried to plead, then threaten, but I just walked away, her voice following me down the hall until it faded. The next morning she was gone. Mark's business was officially shut down, and the news was running the story with his mugshot plastered across the screen. I sat on the porch with a coffee, the morning air cool and clean, knowing I hadn't just survived their betrayal. I had buried it and them for good. Please like, share, and subscribe for more stories.